Everyone, this is Frank from Star Wars Autograph Collection. I'm here in Welland, Ontario at Fun Expo, and I am joined today by actor Alan Flyng. Alan, thank you very much for your time today.
You're really welcome, Frank.
Alan, can you tell us a little bit about your role in the Star Wars universe?
Sure, I came into it with Empire Strikes Back. I was cast originally as a Stormtrooper, mainly for the carbonite chamber. I spent 7 weeks on that scene. But in between, when they were resetting the lights or changing the camera, they pushed me out and I'd be shoved out in a different costume. So I was also a horse rebel, I was also a snowtrooper, I ended up chasing myself all over the place, which is weird. And that was when I was working with George Lucas, because he was directing the second unit. So 7 weeks of that, which was not so enjoyable, because this picture you might recognise. This is the scene, this is me standing here with Vader and Fett. You see here, that's real steam. Real steam, they shut the stage doors to keep the atmosphere in, and then they turn on the boiling hot steam under our feet. It's coming up through the uniform and through the armour, and then they lit us also with arc lights, just to make sure it was warm enough. So the temperature got up to about 45 Celsius. We were in that 6 days a week, 7 weeks. Imagine that.
Oh man.
After that, a couple of years later, I was fortunate enough to be in the right place at the right time. And I was asked by Dave Tomlin to come and help out on a scene they were shooting on Return of the Jedi. I wasn't supposed to be on the film at all, he said I wasn't. He was supposed to be in the studio. I was on my way out, having finished another scene. But Dave was standing outside the Star Wars stage. I think it was stage 4, I'm not sure. And he said, can you do us a favour? We've got a problem, and we just need someone who can deliver a line. It's going to be really sharp, quick, staccato, direct to camera, and we'll be really, really obliged if you can help. I said, sure. I'm on my way out to Smith Martin. But they took me in, and what had happened was they had another actor. And they'd had problems with the fact that he was a stutterer. And even though most of the speaking roles, the minor speaking roles, were dubbed, they still needed to have the language sharp from the mouth. Otherwise, they couldn't put a voice to it. So this poor guy, who by this time was sweating to death with nerves, shot, ended up in his changing room upstairs, and the costume was brought down to me, and I was asked to put it on. Well, Dave Tomlin is no wardrobe guy, because he spotted me and thought, oh, he'll fit the costume, I know he can do the line. Well, the poor guy was out of it, was a 42 chest, and I was a 48. So I got into the costume, and as you can see from here, all through here, lovely puckers. Because I didn't dare lift my arms, I didn't dare bend over more than what I was allowed to look into this screen here. And I couldn't twist or move like this, because every time I tried, the seams went. So I did my rehearsal to camera, turned my face away, and looked into the screen and waited for them to call action after the camera rolled and the sound was rolled. And when it happened, I did my little look to the screen, turned around, looked to camera, and there was Ken Coley, who was Admiral Pete. So I looked shocked, but I got my line out clean, once only, and it was cut and done. And the reason why I was shocked was because this particular appearance ended up being the last appearance for me in front of the camera. The very next day I was in Wales, started a new picture with Glenda Jackson, John Finch, and Ken Coley, who I'd met the week before, and I'd fitted his costume on, because I was going into the next film in wardrobe, which is where I am today. So it was without being rude, it was a WTF moment. So that was it. That's how I came through Star Wars.
What did you know, before you got the role in Empire Strikes Back, what did you know of Star Wars from the first film? Had you seen it? Had the phenomenon set in yet?
I hadn't seen it. I knew of it. But I knew of it from the industry point of view. There was a lot of talk about it whilst it was shooting because they had a few financial problems, and as sometimes happens with films, actors and crew who believe in the project they're working on will basically put their money, their salaries back into a picture. And when they do, they sometimes get points on the film and they make a little bit of money on sale to different sectors in the world. And that's basically what happened on that film. So there was a lot of talk about that. Also, it was the talk of the business because George Lucas had hired some of the very best people in our industry. We were already known in Britain by then as a sort of subsidiary service industry for American films because of the quality of our technicians. So in this case, George Lucas was interested in the special effects, animatronics, which was in its nascent stage, just coming around, and puppetry. So that gave him a platform to develop, and from there a lot of new processes were developed, makeup processes as well as green screen, I believe made its first appearance, used on A New Hope, and a lot with models as well, which were far more realistic than had occurred before. So the whole thing was innovative, so it was the talk of the town, literally. But nobody expected it to be a huge success. And when it was a success, everyone thought it was a one-off, because a couple more years pass and they come back to start shooting again, and I get a call from my agent to go in, and I'm thinking, well, maybe it's going to be a success, maybe it was lucky the first time round, who knows, I'll go along. And the agent told me absolutely nothing, so I just turned up for my audition, which as it turned out was, can you get into this outfit? Which with my size, you can imagine, was a bit tough. But I managed to get into it, so I got the part to work with the critical actors. And it turned into 7 weeks of work, for which I was grateful at the beginning, and by the end of it, I was heartily sick of. For the reasons I said before. It was incredibly hot work in those costumes, and the set went up to about 45 Celsius, much too hot for comfort.
Was there anything, obviously the temperature sticks out in your mind, was there anything else that you recall, other than the heat, that would just, any memories or moments that were special?
Dave Prowse had a costume dresser who worked for him, who was a real character, well known in the business. He was known to everybody by the name Mother. His name was John Birkinshaw, and he truly was a character. He was middle-aged, built like a stick, turned up in pink cashmere jumper and a bow tie, and he idolised Dave. He loved Dave. But Dave had real problems with his costume because, like us, the Stormtroopers, the lenses were reflecting the camera all the time. So they decided to attack the lenses with a metal polish called brasso, which was abrasive, which took the shine off, but also took our ability to see what was going on through them away as well. So Dave had a habit of walking into walls, as did the Stormtroopers, banging their heads on overhanging things, purely by accident. And after a while, it became dangerous for Dave to be wandering around with his helmet on, so they brought an old railway porter's trolley in. And Dave used to get onto the trolley with Mother behind, saying, "Out the way, boys and girls, Vader coming through." And he would be wheeled to the set. So yeah, I remember that. And there were other things like on this particular scene, when they changed the camera angle, they also asked us to cheat our positions to camera. So we weren't, strictly speaking, in the right positions, but the camera looked correct. And I remember the camera operator saying to one of the other guys, "Can you take 2 steps to the left?" He took 2 steps to the left and went straight on the side. And it was a 16 to 18 foot fall of concrete.
What's his name?
That was really high because we could only access the set most of the time by ladder. There was one functional staircase, but it was occupied by the camera crew and their magazines and their lens cases, blah 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 blah, and all the hangers on the place. So we had to end up going up and down the ladder.
So you mentioned that you got into wardrobe during this time. After what?
Well, I had done a little bit of wardrobe work.
Yeah.
But originally my family background was in tailoring.
Okay.
And I wanted to do anything but tailoring. So I went off to work for the gas suppliers in England, and I did all sorts of crazy jobs, anything to avoid the inevitable. And I went to drama school, I became an actor, I did all sorts of things. I went into cabaret as a singer, I did shows in the West End, anything that touched costume. And then I was out of work for a while. And so a friend of mine said, well, I know you don't want to do it, but the National Theatre have a vacancy, they need somebody to do a bit of tailoring. So I thought, what harm can it do? I went in there, and 3 days after I joined, the chief pattern cutter, who handled 4 theatres, plus the touring companies, died of a heart attack. And they said, well, you're a cutter, you can take over. So what was going to be just a short fill-in job ended up being 6 months of cutting 27 shows, male and female costumes.
That you?
And I did that, and one of the designers I knew,
That's from
I was working with, he went out to start working in film, and he got a contract with Britain's Channel 4, who had also decided they were going to launch a flagship part of their programming as a film station, commissioning their own films. So this designer got offered the very first film to go into production, and he asked me to leave the National to join him.
That you in there?
And that's when I ended up fitting Ken Coley for a Glenda Jackson film. But this little part came in.
That right there?
Weird. There you go. And I've been doing costume ever since. 45 costumes or so. 45 films since then. And yeah, it's been a good life.
We're in a hockey rink, in case they haven't seen that, and the noise travels in a rink. Now, we're in Canada, we're at a Star Wars show, and you're signing autographs. How did you get into this?
No way!
into this world of Star Wars autograph signing.
That was purely by accident too.
I knew a guy who was an Assassin Temple guard in A New Hope, and he also was a medal bearer. And he phoned me out of the blue. I hadn't seen him for 20 odd years. And he said, "Do you want to come out and do some conventions?" I said, "What on earth are you talking about?" He said, "Come on out and do some Star Wars conventions, because you were in Star Wars." I said, "Yeah, so." I knew nothing about conventions. And the first convention I did turned out to be in Germany. And I ended up standing up, doing speeches, singing and put on stage, giving lectures, and God knows what else. This is weird. And they were so friendly. And really, it's because of that I've been doing it ever since.
You said how many shows you average? Are you doing a lot of shows a year, it seems?
No, I don't do that
Not too many?
I try and keep it down.
Okay.
Primrose and I, we often travel together. We're very good friends. And we get on well. So we try to do maybe 10 to 20 a year. It just depends. Because she, as I, still work. She works as an actress. I work at costume. So as our schedules allow, we try to concentrate on small shows, because there we get the chance to do this, to talk face to face.
Which I know the fans appreciate.
Well, we appreciate it too, because having done some of the big shows, running film at Comic-Con, which is like a celebration, doing Dallas Fan Days, whatever. you end up just with your face down, signing, and somebody's shoving a picture in front of you
What did I
with
tell
the
you?
old post-it note telling you what to write and where to write it,
What did I
and
tell
what
you?
colour, and it's just passing through your hands like that. You don't even get a chance to look and say hi. And they also don't allow the guests to come around and be photographed. They have to pay for that.
Sure.
And we don't like that. We like to get close and talk to people.
The fans don't like that either. that's been a new pain to have your photo with the actors. Is not a trend that we've enjoyed seeing over the last year or so.
I think it's pretty
Oh
sharp.
my goodness, really?
What can you tell us about the group, the Sci-Fi Signers? Yeah.
I had a few bad experiences with some people who called themselves agents. And basically they were middlemen. And I ended up having to pay them a sizable commission, as well as sometimes organisers and arrangers and show people. And it turned out that I was raising nothing for charity, which is why I do this for. And so I decided that I would see about setting up a basic website, which was a one-on-one opportunity for fans and organisers to get in contact with people like me. So over the last year we've signed up, I think around about 54, 55 people. Many of them Star Wars, but also other franchises like Doctor Who, Superman, all that sort of thing, James Bond. And these actors each have their own page where you get to have a basic rundown of what they are and what they do, with links to what shows they've done or what films they've done. Many of them also have an internet e-shop where you can buy their photos direct, and most importantly, there is a contact form which you fill out, and it doesn't come to me, it doesn't come to my co-administrator Rick Stanley, it goes directly to the actor, into his inbox, his home inbox. So you get to contact them direct, and that to us was an innovation which we thought was about time. So you want a signature, you can get onto us direct. You want to get us to a show, and you don't want to pay somebody a fortune to get us, do it that way.
I had one of my followers on the Facebook page asked me recently, can you send me some websites where I can get in, where can I find autographs directly from actors? And that was certainly one of them that I sent to him, because it does go, like you said, it's right from the source.
Yeah, also because we're not dealing with the big names, the big players. Many of the shows that we do have many more signers for the size of the show than you would find normally. So sometimes we have 13, 14, 15 signers at a very small show because it's for charity. And that also gives us the opportunity sometimes to pick up signatures for fans who can't get to a show, so we can do that for them too. Not wishing to take their work away from you,
I know.
but it's just something we offer to fans if they really need it.
It's great to know. That's what we're just trying to put autographs in people's hands. Just tell them where the shows are, tell them where you'll be, and where the opportunities are. So that's
exactly. We also link into Eric LeBlanc, so that his excellent site, telling everybody where all the people are appearing, is directly available through our site too. So we're all on one.
It's excellent, excellent. Now, what you mentioned, being able to interact with the fans. What is it like for you as an actor sitting behind the table for these shows?
It can be tiring. It can be tiring. Sometimes it can be boring. Most of the time, it's really, really nice. It's just nice to sit down and meet true fans. They're not our fans, they're fans of the franchise. And they're so knowledgeable. Sometimes they even turn up with photographs of us that we don't know exist. For me, it all started with a Polaroid. I had a Polaroid, which was this picture, which was my fitting for the Death Star. And this I had to produce for a particular agent from Paris to prove that I had been in Star Wars. So I turned up with the original Polaroid, all scratched. And he recognised the uniform and the Vader helmet, even the broken armour here in the window, and the boots down here, cavalry boots. And he said, I would kill for that photo. I said, you don't have to, here you are. How green was I? And I gave it to him. But from that one picture, this display, which is all over the place here, and most of those have come from fans.
That's quite a selection.
It is quite a selection, and there are a lot more at home too that I haven't been able to bring because of the weight restriction coming over here. So I think probably I've got around about 70 different photos.
They're great. I'm looking at the shots, and they're just great moments from the film too. That strikes you that you're in these amazing scenes.
Just really, really lucky. I was in two iconic scenes because obviously Han Solo going into carbonite, really important.
Oh yeah.
The I love you thing and all that. So I was lucky with that. I was also lucky with the Imperial officer part because once again it was a pivotal moment. The Executor was destroyed. It destroyed the Death Star. It's seen exploding from the surface of the planet. Changes the history of Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
So I was just really, really lucky.
Now, are you a fan of the films?
I am now. To be honest, I didn't watch any of them originally. But yes, I am now.
It's important for us to remember on this side of the table that as actors, as your profession, it's a job. And like you said, for Jedi, it was an afternoon.
A morning.
An hour of work. And it's only until recently when I stopped and tried to think of jobs I had 20 years ago, do I remember anything about that? So, it's amazing. It's great that you have these memories and the photos to show it, and obviously the films. But it was a job.
It's also funny because a lot of the guys who were behind the camera, I got to work with regularly thereafter. So they were always ribbing me about the fact that they'd been on one side and I was on the other, and about my acting skills, or lack of them as they used to say. But it stood me in good stead, learning camera technique from in front of camera. I mean, I've been in over 300 films, but everybody only remembers these. I was in films like Victoria and Drag. Oh yeah. Dancing. Oh God.
My mother didn't let me watch that movie when I was a kid.
There was a film called Scum, which was the first film that a very, very young English actor did. His name I'm not going to be able to remember now. Ray. Always plays a hard guy.
Leota? No. Oh, you said English.
No, it'll come to me after we finish. But he and I ended up in this film where we were supposed to be delinquents in a child correction centre, and we were both in a scene, our very first appearance together, naked in the shower.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Welcome to.
Oh boy. Yeah, so I mean, we've done all sorts of films over the years. I was in American Werewolf in London. And for fans of that, they want my signature because in a particular scene in Trafalgar Square where the guy transforms into the werewolf, instead of reacting the way everybody else did, I burst up laughing. And it's been that ever since. I'm always known as the laughing guy in Trafalgar Square. It's a one moment, but they like it.
Sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah. But I mean, there are so many films. It's difficult to remember them all, to be honest.
I bet. It's like I said, it's work. It's your job, and they keep going. And
Well, the first film, for instance, the first film I ever designed, exclusively as the designer, was a film called House of the Long Shadows. Now, it's just been re-released on Blu-ray. It died a death, disappeared, because it came out of the Canon film stable. When Canon went down, a lot of the films went with it. And I did Bolero, I did Sahara, all for Canon, but I also did this film, and it was the only film where Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee, John Carradine Sr., Desi Arnaz Jr., and Vincent Price, the old English actor Richard Todd, all appeared in one horror film together. And the whole thing was, it was a comedy. And it was hysterical because they could not stop trying to make each other false. And getting that film out in the time available was hysterical. And I spent weeks and weeks and weeks with bellyache from laughing. Even to Vincent Price getting hold of a live bat and putting it into a cupboard which Christopher Lee had to open and didn't know what was going to fly out. Could never use it in the film because Christopher Lee was absolutely choking on the floor. So I've done some really, really interesting films over the years, but Star Wars is where it's at.
does that have any, as an actor, and like you said, it's so a large body of work. How do you feel about being recognized and being invited to conventions for this particular piece?
I used to think it was crazy until I met the fans. Now I realise I'm not crazy, they're not crazy. It's just a fantastic franchise. It's the whole, even the prequels make a wonderful film history in themselves for fans of many, many generations now. And it's going to continue under Disney with any luck, touch wood. And this could go on for years. And I'm very, very grateful for that. Really.
Well, Alan, thank you very much for your time today at the Fun Expo here in Welland, and have a safe trip back tomorrow to England, and may the force be with you.
And with you all too.